Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Strange Normal. My name is Brad. You can call me Strange. We talk about the stranger things that happen in your normal life to give you a biblical understanding of what's going on. And there's lots going on. So hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell icon so you're notified when things like this happen. We got so much going on tonight. It is incredible. Let me tell you, we got Senator Tim Burchett coming up. We got a few, of course, from Tom DeLonge, some reminders about what he said. We also have Ross Colhart. He's been in the news quite a bit lately, talking about the latest that has happened, and we're gonna get a little bit into Alice Bailey and some occult stuff at the end of the program tonight. So stick around because there's some weird prophecies that we don't necessarily believe are hold water, but it is interesting just to look in and see what's going on. We'll explain more about that as we get on with it. Also, at the very end, Admiral John Kirby says some pretty amazing stuff about how they train. How their training is affected by these UAPs. That's coming up right now. Now, before we get into it, I got a few guests tonight. I want to bring in our guests. You've seen them before. Matthew, Eric, hi. How are you doing tonight? Matthew?
Hello. Hello, Strange. You can call me Normal.
Eric, how are you?
I don't know. I don't know what to say about that intro. Maybe we need to do a little more work, brainstorming. I don't know. Talk offline about that.
So what do you think about all this news that is happening lately? I mean, I don't know if you've seen the Discord, but it's just hopping with stuff right now because we got all the news that's just pouring in about this. And we got the big Senate hearings that are coming up pretty soon. So I think we're about to see some very interesting Bible prophecy unfold right before our eyes.
Yeah, I think it's got to be pretty overwhelming if you're not keeping up with this stuff, because if this is the first time you're getting exposed to it, especially if it's in the mainstream. If you're using mainstream anything for information, then that's part of the problem. I mean, that's stop doing that and go find other sources. But yeah, we keep up with this stuff in the Discord, which you can join for the cost of what is it, Brad? A sit down restaurant?
Cost of a sit-down restaurant, and cheaper.
Your monthly
yeah,
sit-down.
monthly sit-down
way
restaurant.
cheaper at
now
this
with
point.
inflation. But yeah, there's so much stuff in the Discord that we can't keep up. I don't know about you, Matt, but I can't. And this is what we do in our spare time. So I feel for the people who are just being exposed to this. If you're new to the channel, check out our previous videos. There's also other ministries talking about the same thing. But the whole point of this is to look at this with a biblical lens, and that's what we're going to do.
Absolutely. And the thing I want to kind of start out with tonight, Matthew, unless you have anything to say in the beginning, is the social media aspect of this. There's been a lot of social media ruckus, I guess you could say, that's been happening. I got one TikTok that specifically really made me think. And I don't know if you've seen this one, Eric, Matthew, but this is really interesting. Check this out. This lady kind of hits an interesting chord with I think the rest of the world.
I love how the government fairly certainly confirmed that aliens are real. They're like, we have pictures, we have evidence, they visited, we interviewed them, guys, this is serious, aliens are real. And all of us just kind of are too depressed to even care about that. We're all like, oh, cool, another thing, great, add it in the pile of wildfires, and I can't friggin' afford my groceries. Oh, now aliens? Truly no one cared. Except Blink-182.
And she's right. No one cares. No one seems to realize what's going on right now. And I don't know about them interviewing aliens, but I think that really hasn't come out yet. But we know what's really going on here. We know that it's not necessarily extraterrestrials, but they have been here for a long time. And it's another realm that has hidden itself at least since the 1700s. And it's fascinating to see that this is coming together just as the Bible says, just as we former occultist Roger Murnau says, and a lot of other things. So, what do you think about that, Matthew? I'm gonna put you on the spot.
She's right that everybody's depressed. I'd be so depressed right now if I didn't have Jesus. Just thinking back to before I had the biblical paradigm to look at things through, I was very politically charged. I was very upset about everything, even things that I had absolutely no control over. I'd get worked up about, and I'd be talking to my wife about them and just stressed out all the time. So she's right. The cost of groceries are on the rise, and that is more of an immediate threat to people's well-being than this idea that, oh, UFOs exists. It is a whatever type of situation. I think it's funny. She seems to have her finger on the pulse, I'd say.
What do you think? What do you think, Eric?
This is funny. I was actually just watching another. He's a military YouTuber. He's a pilot, and he talks about all kinds of stuff. And he's one of the channels that I watch. And he talked about something that in the military is called task saturation, where basically you just got so much coming at you, you get overwhelmed. And I've been in that situation. And me personally, it's easy for me to freeze. And it's like when you do that, it's like, okay, what do I start with? And what she says kind of it relates to essentially everything, because there's only so much a human being can care about and keep track of. And so it's really important what we choose to focus on. And this is why we're supposed to focus on Christ, because if we focus on all the other stuff in the world, we're going to get overwhelmed, and then we're going to miss the important stuff that we're supposed to be watching out for. Whereas if we choose to focus on Christ and the promises that he's given us and just focusing on our relationship with him, then the other stuff is going to be the stuff that we just say, yeah, okay, whatever, whatever happens, I'm focused on Christ. He's going to get me through it. And that's what that reminded me of. But I completely sympathize. That's exactly how I would be. And I was right there with Matthew about being just so involved in things. And you get cynical at a certain point. It's just like, okay, aliens, sure, fine, whatever. Just a nuke got dropped where? Okay, it wasn't near me. So let's just keep going. That's how it can get if you don't have Christ in your life.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I've thought that this was probably the essence of what a lot of people are thinking right now. If that happens tomorrow, I'll think about it and be like, wow, that's amazing, but drop it probably. It's because it's being pushed from so many different angles. You're almost just accept it. For instance, there's another movie coming out. I don't remember what it's called because I don't really want to just announce it and promote it on the channel, because I think it's a lot of propaganda, personally, spiritual propaganda. And this is a clip from it. This actually came across my Facebook feed as I was going through it the other day, and I thought it was quite amazing. Listen carefully to these lyrics.
1, 2, 3.
There alien who art in heaven, lean and skinny, about 6'7". Don't we know you ain't our brother, or you friend or foe?
Or other.
Are you friend or foe or
That's a
other?
movie?
This is the beginning of a funny clip out of it. And so it was the trailer, I guess, they used. I don't remember the name of it. Matthew, I think you probably know the name of it. And it's okay if you mention it.
Asteroid City.
That's
The name of it. It's a Wes Anderson film. So if anybody's familiar with Wes Anderson, that's why it looks like that. All his weird stylized thing. But to see him touch on this, I don't think he's ever done anything science fiction-y. So it's interesting that he's chosen this topic that's a little bit maybe outside of his wheelhouse. You had something similar happen with the horror director,
Yes.
Jordan Peele, because he did Get Out, and then he did Us, and then he did Nope out of nowhere. And Nope is all about a UFO is preying on people and livestock, and very strange thing to cover. A lot of people are suddenly dipping their toes into this idea, and I don't think it's any
Totally
coincidence.
coincidental, Matthew.
Oh,
No, it's absolutely a coincidence.
right. Coincidence.
So I think it's interesting because you think you watch these things, not you, but someone watches these things, and they think they're not learning anything out of them, but they're actually learning quite a bit, because we all take in what we see and then process it and think, oh yeah, I that makes sense because I saw that in a movie. I've heard so many people say that. Oh yeah, I saw that in a movie. Yeah, that makes sense. It's like that thing. That's like my life's a movie or something. It's like I'm watching. Well, is art imitating life, or is life imitating art? Because you never know what you're going to learn tomorrow. Check this out.
Humans, for the most part, don't have a clue. They don't want one or need one either. They're happy. They think they have a good bead on things.
Well, why the big secret? People are smart. They can handle it.
A person is smart. People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. 1,500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was the center of the universe. 500 years ago, everybody knew the Earth was flat. And 15 minutes ago, you knew that people were alone on this planet. Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.
So who's teaching? What's going on here? How are we being taught? I think it's very clear how we're being taught, and it's about the mainstream media is teaching us, and it's the media, the Hollywood wheelhouse that is chugging out this stuff, and we kind of I've touched on that before, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but that was a clip from. Do you know where that's from? Anybody know where that's from?
I think even Matthew knows this one.
Oh, I don't know. Is it a gentleman in a darker shade of gray? It's Men in Black. Everybody knows it's Men in Black.
I was like, what? Where are you going? Yeah, Men in Black, old Will Smith movie, and so I think it's kind of funny that what he's presenting here, because we got a lot going on. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go right into that without mentioning too much else about this, because we're going to got a lot to cover tonight. And I kind of want to touch on the podcast, Jeremy Corbell's podcast, where he has Tim Burchett come in. That's the senator from Tennessee. Tennessee is the state I'm in right now. And so it was kind of close to home to see what this guy is saying about what's currently happening. Check this out.
So you, at one point, have talked about a meeting that you had in Florida. And what I want to know from you is, have you seen, in your position, have you seen credible information, video footage of something from pilots or something that indicates to you there's a technology that's more advanced than what the United States has? We need to figure out what it is. Have you personally seen evidence like that?
I have seen evidence that no one, as a matter of fact, Matt Gaetz said it best, that he has seen evidence that they're of craft that do not exist on this planet, basically. So yes, absolutely, 100%.
And you personally have seen that. Can you tell me, you've said some public statements about it, can you tell me a little bit about that meeting and why it gave you an unsettling feeling?
Well, they just tried to cover it up. We go down there, and it's myself, Matt Gaetz, and Representative Luna. They're both Florida folks. And I told Matt, I said, we're going to get down there, and they're going to tell us that this thing's going to happen. I mean, that we're going to get to see all this. We're going to get down there, and they're going to show us a bunch of other stuff. And in fact, that's the way it went down, and they weren't going to show us. And then so we, some calls were made. We were put off into another room, which I'm pretty sure was bugged. And because it had cameras in the ceilings. I mean, it was just, I'd seen something very similar to that when I was in the Middle East. But they, then an hour later, they came back basically and said, not sure who you all know, but we're going to bring in what we were told we were going to get briefed by pilots who had seen stuff. And so they finally did, and they brought them back. And, it was just and the pilots, you could tell, were very uneasy. And as I call them, the spooks in the room, the CIA or whoever they were very uneasy about what they were telling us about. And so, and I've been I've been in unclassified things too, where I've literally had people come by the house that wanted to visit me in Washington, were afraid to, and literally came to my house here in Knoxville. And and showed me things on video, similar to the Tic Tac videos, and things like that. And, and these people had scientific backgrounds and they were very credible.
So we're going to pause it right there for a second. We got a little more about Tim, actually a lot more about Tim Burchett here in a minute, but he's basically very careful about choosing his words on this. And you can see he wants to say a lot more, but he's pausing to see if what he can say is public, because they're showing him. They're showing Senate now a lot of classified stuff that they normally wouldn't. And that's coming out. In fact, that's coming out on the 26th. They're going to do a whole hearing on it, and that's, I think, led by several people. But I think one of them is Tim. Tim's kind of helping out with that. I'm not sure about that, though. What do you think about that clip, Matthew? Any thoughts on it?
Just that more people are starting to take it seriously and go through, and they want the answers, and there's still a degree of stonewalling. There's still a degree of separation, and that type of frustration is just going to ferment, and it's going to create this pushing now, I believe, because that type of pushing already exists in the public sphere. There are a lot of people who are totally fed up with it. There are some people who feel like they know exactly what's going on. We feel like we have a pretty good idea of what's going on. They have a different version of what it could be, and they think that they're withholding this technology because it is benevolent and because it's going to benefit us. So when we now have politicians stepping into the realm and they're saying, yeah, we're here on behalf of the people. Which, when does the government ever work on behalf of the people, by the way?
I'm the government, and we're here to help.
Exactly.
I think that's interesting because actually, Ross, one of the last videos I have in this collage that we're going to go through tonight is actually Ross Colhart saying that there's stuff that he hasn't reported on because it's very, very dark, and he hasn't been able to legitimize it yet. But if it is true, it's very scary. And I think we've already touched on that on this channel in previous shows. So stick around or go back and watch those, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. Do you have any thoughts on it, Eric, before I move on to what else Tim said about this?
No, let's see what else he has to say.
Yeah, so this is interesting because he's going to go into George, who is a well-known ufologist and reporter. He's going to go and ask him a question, and Tim is going to. Well, just watch. Tim is going to do something very interesting and talk about how people in the government have been compromised. Listen to this.
So you, at one point, have talked about a meeting that you had in Florida.
I do this all the time. I'll edit this out.
As Congress edges closer to finding out if crash retrievals have happened, if reverse engineering special access programs are real, would you expect major pushback from the Pentagon? I mean, they clearly have kept this a secret a long time. Contractors, they have a lot of influence on Capitol Hill. Are they coming after people like you? Are they trying to thwart the committee from getting into the bottom of this?
I feel 100% they are. I feel that there's people in Congress that have been compromised. And I know I'm going to get called on the carpet for this and say who and how do you know this? But, why do good people vote for crappy stuff? And all of a sudden they just have a change of heart. I'll tell you how. They've been compromised. You're in some foreign country or at the bar, and then some attractive person comes up to you and giggling at your jokes and telling you how smart you are. Next thing you know, you're in bed with them in a motel room. And then lo and behold, a week later, somebody says, hey, somebody whispers in your ear, I got footage of you with some little young thing here in the, at this time, and I said, I need your help on this thing. And yeah, I think people are compromised. I think staff are compromised. I think, and this is $1 billion situation.
So this is interesting to me because I believe that I don't think I've heard anybody touch on how the government gets away with some of these incredible weird laws and stuff. I'm not saying this happens all the time, but Tim, a senator himself, said right here that things happen, and then they get what is this called? there's a legitimate word for this.
Blackmail,
I wanted to say blackmail, but it's another word for
extortion.
it. Extortion. That's the word I was looking for. And so you get extorted because you do something that isn't necessarily right. I think, this is my personal belief, I think we, at the end of time, will all be extorted. God's people will be pushed into things that they believe are absolutely wrong, to the point where it just completely devastates not only the person, but also the message as it goes out. And so that's not only, we not only need to be of good moral character because of the message that goes out, but just because we want to be with God someday and bring a lot of people with us, but because it's going to ruin the message, absolutely ruin the message and we won't be able to do what we believe is right. If we get extorted. And I'm not talking about, the extreme example he used where, someone comes up to him giggling. I'm talking about the small things. Hey, you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and work on this day? Why don't you go ahead and do this thing over here at work? Something that compromises your moral in order to continue a purpose that doesn't seem very big at the time. And over time, maybe you'll get extorted into saying, that guy over there, he's Christian, but he's not very Christian. So we need to be very, very careful and keep our eyes open, because this is not something we're struggling against is flesh and blood, but we got prying eyes that are watching us and trying to make us do things behind the scenes. And so he gives a very literal example to this, and I think that we can learn from what he's saying in a spiritual realm.
Yes.
Well, I think the example that he gave was actually... Oh, go ahead.
In addition to extortion, that I'm sure happens behind the scenes, where in that type of a matter where someone is persuaded to maybe be unfaithful in their marriage, and then they get the footage of it and they can blackmail you with it, there's such a thing as like an honor among thieves, or even an initiation into a gang or an organized crime, where we are all guilty and we're all culpable of whatever crime we're participating in. They say in a mafia setting, eventually you'll be asked to off somebody. And you maybe don't know anything about the situation, but you have to commit this crime, get the blood on your hands, because then, hey, you're like the rest of us. Mm-hmm. You've committed a crime that can put you away for the rest of your life, so you better be loyal, and you better uphold the morals that we ascribe to. Mm-hmm. I think that certainly these people are involved in some darker stuff. I'm sure anybody who watches this channel and knows anything that the satanic cults get up to, it's really nasty stuff. That's multiple life sentences that you're going to be piled in on. So I think that there's a bit of that going on too, and maybe even just a vested interest in the work itself. That some of them are true believers, other ones like the power that comes along with it, and you just have this kind of hodgepodge, this mixture of people who are either too afraid to go against it, or people who wouldn't go against it because this is what they want.
I want to add to that real quick, and then I'm going to throw it to you, Eric. What I think is fascinating is, you've heard a long time ago in the I want to say like the 1700s and stuff, back then when you had these cults and they had the witches brew and all this other stuff. I think fantastic. The funny lore behind that is that, they used to drink people's blood and all this stuff. Well, you know why that was bad? Because the Bible says not to drink someone's blood or drink blood in at all. And so they're doing something that is directly against what they believe. Well, now that as morals have slid down, you don't have to do something as simple as drink blood in order to be bad or committed yourself to an occult or for the spiritual realm to say, yeah, he's not coming back. You have to. It slid all the way from drinking blood to pedophilia in Hollywood. And so we've gone from one extreme, and we have to keep going down in a downward hill as people get worse and worse, for those cultic-like groups to exist and continue, because ultimately, I believe, this is my personal opinion, these groups want to they want to see that you are 100% on their side. Like you said, everyone has a little bit of this extortion against them. What do you?
I disagree that it's.
Go ahead.
Disagree that it's been a degeneration. I think it's the same stuff that they've been doing since biblical times, and it's just been hidden. The drinking blood and blood rituals. I mean, Megan Fox is on video saying her boyfriend's Machine Gun Kelly, and they consume each other's blood for ritual purposes.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Well, but that's the same stuff that's been had. Where did they get it from? Go back to ancient Rome. Go back to ancient Egypt and Babylon, and soon the Tower of Babel. Human sacrifice, unfortunately, is still practiced in secret. You know, the whole and it's becoming bigger now. The whole satanic ritual abuse thing, which I was small, but there was like the whole satanic panic in like the late '80s, early '90s, and then just kind of blew it off. It's not going away so easily now. Like that movie, The Sound of Freedom, which is about rescuing children from child trafficking, is like set to make $100 million, and it's only been out like a week or something like that, and people are watching it, they're paying attention, their eyes are being opened. But to say that, you know, people are more degenerate now, so that's why they're getting into pedophilia, I think it was going on back in the 1700s. It was definitely going on in ancient Rome, where they did have, and Matt knows more than me about the blood sacrifices or the human sacrifices to their pagan deities, which we from scripture know are devils. It calls them demons. So the same demons, same fallen angels, they didn't go anywhere, and people are still worshiping them. So why would the rituals change?
Interesting. Yeah.
Well, I would say to Bradley's credit, it's more publicly widespread now, because we have these awful debates taking place where people are arguing that drag shows are child-friendly events and that you should bring your kids and have them hold up $1 bills for these males dressed up as females and treat it like a strip club. Like, that's disgusting. And if you rewind the clock to the 1700s, don't even go back as far as the 1700s. Go back to the 50s. People would be horrified. You know, there's this meme that Eric has shared with me, and they were talking about how you're worried about living in a dystopian future. Go back in time to the 1950s and show somebody some pictures of what's taking place in the present day, and they'll tell you you live in a dystopian future. That's where we're at.
And go for it.
I was going to say it's a disconnect. Maybe a better way of thinking about it is the mainstream is coming more and more in line with what has been going on in secret, until the point where we're back to these things taking place. The things that the elites are doing in secret, they will be in public once again. Because the things that people like Matt just mentioned are worried about, people think they can actually stop this. It's like, oh, we got to stop this before it gets to the point where they're doing all these things to children. It's like, no, they are doing those things to children. It's just not public yet. So maybe that's a better way to put it.
Yeah. And I think we all agree that there are people that know what's going on. Unfortunately, there are people in these secret societies. Everyone knows that. And although they might be few and far between, there are people that have a timeline that has been given to them, and they know the plan. And to make sure I know, or to make sure you know what I'm talking about here, I have a short clip from a few years ago. Watch this.
5, 10 years, 15, 20 years,
I think
20, 30 years?
I think within the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to start hearing rumblings of hearings.
But something more substantial than rumblings of hearings.
No, because this is a big deal.
You're going to hear whispers of rumors and rumblings of hearings, Kevin. Come on, we're almost there.
I think you'll start to hear the pressure building to have congressional hearings on
I
this.
see. Okay.
And then once that happens, things get a little scary, because then on a public level, they have to act on this. Now, what does that mean? What are they going to do? Now, you know, I know a lot of things of what we've done, but the idea of those things happening on a public, forum is it's terrifying.
It could be chaos.
It could be chaos.
Yeah. So that was fascinating, because that was about 4 years ago. I think that was about 4 years ago. That was Tom DeLonge, and he was saying, you know what, we're soon to have rumblings of hearings next, and he gave a time frame. So how did he know that? Because absolutely that's what's happening right now, and to show you that I know what I'm talking about here, here's a News Nation clip about 3 minutes long. Check this out.
And breaking news tonight from Capitol Hill, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he will introduce new legislation to declassify government records related to UFOs and UAPs. That is a big deal, and this just came down within the last couple of minutes. And it comes as things are really starting to take shape for the UFO hearings on Capitol Hill, with House leadership just today confirming that they are tentatively scheduled for the end of this month. The hearings will be happening in just a couple of weeks. But those in charge of the hearings have been tight-lipped about the witnesses that they plan to call, even telling us that the Pentagon has already begun running interference on the possible whistleblowers.
Yeah, it's going to be, I would hope, a half a dozen people. We're going to have some people that I would hope from the scientific community. We're going to hopefully have some pilots. We're going to have some whistleblowers, some others. But, you know, as soon as I announce that the Pentagon puts a squeeze on them, which they've already started with some of our alleged witnesses. So we're going to keep it pretty close to the cuff. And then when we release it, it'll be public record to everybody, because I'm not going to play the secret game. And we're trying to nail down all the details. But, of course, you know, we have the Pentagon pushing against us, calling some of our witnesses, telling them, you know, don't go testify for this committee. If we have to, we'll use the power of subpoena. We'll bring them in there and make them tell the truth, because this thing has been covered up. It is ridiculous. The Pentagon needs to come forth with the truth finally, and let's move on to another issue. But until then, I think we need to find out what's going on. And the charcoal briquette comment, everybody always quotes me on that. And the reality is, these folks, if they are beings from light years away or wherever, the dark side of the moon, I don't know. Their technology is so incredible that they could have done us, if they can travel light years to visit our little measly planet, then their technology is so superior to anything we've ever seen.
Do you have classified briefings? And I know you can't tell us what happens in those briefings, but I mean, is there just like a ton of information that we don't know, that you know?
There's quite a bit. I've been in meetings and you know, I guess the CIA or whoever, the alphabet agencies in there, and they're getting nervous when the pilots start talking and telling us things, and they tried to sandbag us down in Florida on a meeting. They told us we were going to have a meeting. They gave us all this other top secret stuff, which is pretty incredible, but it had nothing to do with the UFOs. And then we had to call their bluff. We had to call back to Washington, and we had to get the higher ups to release the pilots to speak to us, which is why we flew to Florida in the first place. So there's, I guess there's pride in ownership, whatever. There's just an arrogance about this bunch that I don't trust. Washington is a trash can.
Washington is a trash can, he says. Fascinating clip for several reasons. Number one, we see that, like Tom said, there are hearings about to start about this. 26th is when that's going to happen. If you're on the Discord, I put a little extra channel that has a link to those hearings to watch them live. And in News Nation, that clip, it said the Pentagon is contacting witnesses. They haven't even revealed their witnesses, but the Pentagon is figuring out who the witnesses are. 6 or a handful of them, they said, and they're telling them, don't go talk about this. We don't want you talking about this. And then there is quite a bit of information that Congress is being told about now. And so I think a lot's going on right now. We're going to see in the next, at least by the end of this month, a lot happening as this spiritual deception continues down the path. Any thoughts on this? I'll have you start, Matthew.
Well, Tom DeLonge seems to be in the know. He seems to have rubbed shoulders with the right people. A lot of the things that he has to say have been pretty on point, even to the degree that he said these entities are closer to demonic beings that are found in the Bible. He's been on record saying that. I believe in your bumper, you've got him with that quote, which that is just for a non-believer to say that. That's always a moment of the stones crying out. When you hear people who consider themselves to be non-Christian or secular, and they are drawing parallels between these entities and demons, that God has written it on our hearts. We have this type of a conscience that goes against what these are, and it takes a bending, it takes a twisting to really be okay with these entities and what they want to do. And the things that they hope to accomplish with humanity. And it's just a pact that we can't get involved in. It's something that no matter who is endorsing these beings, whether it be your most trusted politician or maybe a pastor that you really enjoy listening to, go to the Word of God and just see that this is not something that we need to be involved with. Just the curiosity in Tim's voice there, and saying that I don't trust this bunch, like they're keeping something hidden. I could easily see this unfolding into a situation where they, as I said earlier in this broadcast, they're withholding information that could have benefited us, and they're doing it out of greed, and they're doing it because they want to maintain power. But now that we know about this, we can all have a moment where we draw together and
kind of
like
emotional push, right?
Right, yeah. Like the little boy that we saw. Everybody say a prayer to the aliens, and they'll manifest on the lawn of the White House. Who knows? Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised by anything that happens.
It's kind of like that lady at the beginning. She's like, can't even pay rent, and now you say aliens are real? Whatever.
Right.
So,
well, if the aliens are going to abolish rent, she's going to be very interested in getting them around.
they might not abolish rent, but they'll definitely provide free health care. I think that's what's going to happen. I laugh, but I think I'm kind of serious. So we'll see what happens here. But what are your thoughts, Eric? Do you have any thoughts?
I was going to say there's probably only two types of politicians in well, anywhere, not just Washington, but any country. It's the witting accomplices and the unwitting accomplices. So I don't know this politician. He seems like he might be a genuine guy, in which case he's only going to get what they allow him to have. And then you've got people who, I mean, I don't know even names, but I would say probably more powerful people in the United States Congress who know what is going on, and they're willing participants in this deception. And just remember, whatever hearings happen, it's a dog and pony show. Nothing is going to come out that they don't want to come out, and it's not going to come out at a time that they don't want it to come out. So that we always have to keep that in the back of our mind, is like, what are they saying? 3 questions. What are they saying? What are they not saying? And why now? Mm-hmm. What purpose does it serve by releasing this now? And then, ask those 3 questions and look at the Bible. What does the Bible say still has to happen before Jesus Christ returns? Because that's what ultimately that's the thing we should be looking at, not when the aliens come. Right. It's when Jesus Christ returns, and most of the stuff in the Bible has already been fulfilled. We're only waiting for a few things to happen, and we don't know if it's going to be months, years, decades, but it's going to happen. Right. And it's been given to us in advance so that we could compare it. Christ said to be watchful. That means open your. Are you supposed to sleep on watch? Not saying it ever happened, but were we supposed to sleep on? No, you're not supposed to sleep on watch in the military. Why? Because your eyes need to be open. You need to watch, right? And alert somebody if you see something. And so if you're listening to this channel, that's a good start. Go seek out your news from alternative media. Go check out other ministries. But above all, look in the Word of God and see what that says. Daniel, the book of Daniel and Revelation are great places. They're just amazing books. And that tells everything that's going to happen from here on out. So start there.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone mentioned, I forget who it was, but Tim Burchett, is he a good guy? Is he just a good old boy? What is he? Well, it's very interesting you should say that, because we got another clip of him being interviewed by News Nation that kind of says something very fascinating at the very end, and it makes sense. Watch this.
Tell us more about your claims, sir, that the government has known about UFOs since the 1800s, that they can fly underwater. What are you basing those allegations off of?
Well, I'm basing them off of those pilots' videos that you've seen, and there's multiple occasions of that. And I've talked to multiple pilots, and these are the best pilots in the world. And you have to realize, well, even though they have so-called whistleblower protection from the military intelligence, and again, military intelligence is a whole lot like congressional ethics. It just doesn't exist. But if you talk to some of the best pilots in the world and they tell you that they've seen these objects, and then when they do report it, they get interrogated for like up to 8 hours, and they get a blemish on their record. So I've talked to pilots who've literally said, we've destroyed any evidence of these videos because we don't want to have to go through all that. We've seen it. We all talk about it. It's pretty common knowledge among some of the pilots in certain areas. We've had actually 13 near-miss encounters. And to think that, we've got a $50 million aircraft and some of the best pilots in the world who are risking their lives, why would they lie about it?
Right.
Honestly, all they're going to do is catch hell from their superiors. And this is ridiculous. And all I want is, I don't want to send the Pentagon another red cent, because that's what they're after. They see the public opinion, people like legitimate media like yourself are covering it. They're going to smell dollars. And, and honestly, the Pentagon loses over $1 billion a year in their audits, and we don't have the guts to do anything about it. We don't need to study it anymore. Just release the files. Just release the unredacted files.
I think a lot of Americans would agree with you on that. Even the Americans who think that David Grush and, the likes of him are credible, people are ready to see it. They want to see those files. Also, Congressman, Americans are already starting to question what the U.S. actually knows about alien life. And in a new poll from Redfield and Wilton Strategies, they found that 57% of respondents believe the government has more information than publicly shared. But is that necessarily a bad thing, given how sensitive and potentially dangerous this research seems to be?
Why is it dangerous, ma'am? They won't even release the Kennedy files on President Kennedy's assassination. And people have been, that's over 50 years. Anybody involved in that is dead. Ma'am, it is about power. It is about control. It is about the almighty dollar that they are trying to control. And that's all this is about. That's all this is about. Yep. Just release it. I'm not afraid of it. You go out at night and look at the stars, and the light from those stars literally left there before the time of Christ. That is the vastness of God's great universe, ma'am.
And
honestly, ma'am, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Congressman.
So I'm gonna pause it right there. What? Where did that come from? All of a sudden he started talking about the vastness of God's universe. I thought we were talking about aliens here. So I think where he was kind of going was, hey, look, God created so much. Why can't we have God's creation come back and talk to us from a long ways away? Wow, that's quite a statement, I think, because that would say that these things are potentially holy beings that are coming to tell us something. I mean, if you take it, it sounds like he's a Christian. To me, it did. So if you take it from a Christian perspective, you got to either believe these things are good or bad. That's the actual idea from Christianity, I think. What do you guys think?
I mean, I don't think, is there more to that clip? Does he go on, or does he switch gears?
No, she cuts him off. Here, I'll play the rest of it just so you can see what was the end of it. It was only a couple seconds, 11 seconds left.
Last question for you, just a few seconds left. Should Americans be worried or no?
No, they should not. If they have this kind of technology, they could have done us in a long time ago, ma'am.
Yeah, there you go. That's the thing everyone goes back to. But yeah, that was the end.
Well, I kind of keyed in on something he said about how Americans are like essentially eager to know. And if you think about preparing for a meal, there's the expression "whetting your appetite," and that's like there's phases. If you go to like a nice restaurant, there's like courses, and they're timed, and they're certain proportions. And you got the appetizer, and it's all to do with getting your appetite going, so that when the main course comes, you just like essentially devour it. And they're getting people to a point where they're building up anticipation, where whenever they present what they have, whatever it is, most people are just going to dive in after it and not ask questions, just like take it on board. I think that's what they want, and that could serve Satan really really well, and however he's going to use this in his deception.
Mm-hmm. Matthew, any ideas?
It's crazy. He's towing the line that I was just talking about, saying that they're withholding it because they want power, that if they could have destroyed us, they would have. So there's the benevolent alien line, saying that the lights out there existed before Christ's time. That's an interesting line too, because it's almost saying that they have this ancient wisdom.
Right.
That's what we expect. We expect to see these beings, and they're going to be a lot more spiritual than technological. There's going to be some technological aspects to that. There has to be. We live in this age where that's an anticipation that if you're an advanced species, you better have a more like a more updated iPhone than I have, right? They better have better AI than us, or what? Like, how advanced are they if we've got better AI? So they have to have a large margin on the technological front, but it's that spiritual aspect where they're going to be these enlightened beings. They're going to have this ancient wisdom and knowledge. They're going to have the full story, the full picture. They're going to share it with humanity, and they're going to be able to recontextualize all of the world's religions and knit them together into a really nice quilt that we can all just bundle up in, and we'll all be as one. But then there's going to be that remnant people. There's going to be those outsiders who cling to their dusty old book, and they say, it's not in my Bible. And they'll say, how foolish are you?
Yeah.
It's not in your Bible. Use your eyes, man.
This
Look
is the
in front of
spiritualism.
you.
Yeah, this
Exactly.
is the spiritualism that's going to come right around and grab the whole world by surprise, and the religions of the world will come together and say this is a good thing, and everything will follow. It's funny.
And I was going to say there's
just go.
Jesus said that it would be a time of trouble like the world has never seen before. Right. A lot of people attribute that to being famines and wars and that type of a crisis, but I believe it's a time of spiritual trouble, that it's a time where there's a spiritual deception so strong that this is why it's greater than any other time in history. If you look back, even the ancient beings, you have the Egyptians are going to war against the Assyrians and the Babylonians. They all have their pantheons of gods, and they're all very similar. But at the same time, they're saying, well, no, these are our gods. They're not distinguishing them necessarily as the same gods. They believe that my pantheon is distinct. Yes, it draws similarities with yours, but ultimately, these are like a separate set of deities, and they're at war with each other, essentially. That's why it's going to be crazy, because back then Satan was even willing to pit the nations against the nations, but he's going to come through, and that's this whole thing of drawing all of the religions into one.
Yeah.
Suddenly, he doesn't have to pit the ideas of Buddha against the ideas of Christ. He doesn't have to say that the Hindu gods are incompatible with Allah. Everything is on that same playing field, and it gives people this opportunity that they've never had before.
Right.
Because there's this third party that's coming in and telling you that. There's a lot of human beings who run around on Earth today, and they have the coexist bumper stickers.
Yep.
And they say, oh, like let's just all lay down our religions into one. But everybody rolls their eyes at those types of people because they don't understand the theology. They don't get why we can't coexist with each other on a theological level. But when these entities come into the picture and they say, no, you can coexist, because here is the root, here is the foundation of all of your religions, and this is why you all think this way. Yes, that is the time of trouble, right. I believe.
Right. Yeah. Any last thoughts? I'm going to kind of pull this together with another clip, Eric.
Well, it just kind of goes into 1 Thessalonians 5:3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So some versions say peace and security, so that could be a way to usher in, what appears to be peace and security. If all of those religions come together, it's like, okay, well, what are we fighting over? And something that just hit me while you were talking about it, you're talking about how they're, hoarding the knowledge and they want to maintain power or something. And I can't believe I never thought of it before. But the whole thing, this whole past however many thousand years of human history started because of hidden knowledge, the desire for hidden knowledge and extra, knowledge that was not originally given to us.
Yeah.
So the part of the first lines kicked it off. Yep.
Wow.
And so I think what's fascinating here also is that you have Tim Burchett, Tennessee, I think conservative senator. This is a bipartisan thing that's happening right now. There's been articles about that have come out. We'll put those in the Discord. And what I think is fascinating about this is that it's quite alarming because we have him saying that these things must be, practically, these things must be benevolent. But you have people that have been doing this for much longer saying, I'm not so sure about that. Watch this.
I don't want to unnecessarily alarm people, but no, there are aspects of the phenomenon that I find quite alarming and scary that I've been told about. I don't want to speak publicly about them because I haven't been able to confirm them.
Sure.
But it involves bad things being done to human beings.
Yeah.
And frankly, if they're true, they're deeply alarming and concerning. And one thing I would draw your attention to is one of the things that Mr. Grush was able to speak about on a limited basis in the DOPSA agreement that the Defense Department authorized him to speak about was agreements. And when I put to him that this involved implicitly agreements with non-human intelligence, he didn't disagree with me.
Yeah.
And that's where I would be looking. I need to pin you down on this. Are there agreements between non-human intelligences and the American government?
I think that's a question that I would like to know all the details of as well.
So, I mean, before we jump in and chat about that for a little bit, I kind of want to say that just like Blink-182 guy, Tom DeLonge, I think Ross is one of those guys that is in the know about this right now and knows the different timelines that are happening, because he's also said some things that's pretty significant about timelines and stuff. Check this out.
So this is the moment. We're at a moment in human history where I think for the first time in 54, 55 years, Congress finally has the opportunity to ask the question. And we're all waiting with bated breath to see what Congress does next. Is it going to blow it? Is it going to ask that question? I'd be looking more at September than July for those answers.
Look more for September than July. What is he talking about here? So I know that these guys don't know the future, but there is something interesting about this whole occultic, and I'm going to say cultic because it is occultic. Even Tom DeLonge says it's occultic. The nature of this UFO, UAP, alien type agenda that's been going on here, and I believe there is a definite timeline that's not being shared publicly. What do you guys think about those last clips while I pull up some information about this?
That's not knowing the
2025 and
future.
2030. Yeah. What's that?
No, please continue.
It's my fault. I should say, Matthew, go for it.
We need to edit this. I noticed you've been calling on us individually. It's been proceeding in a more
we need a
orderly
classroom
fashion.
setting. Let's raise the hand. Yeah, it's just hard. It's so hard. We bump into each other because we're so excited. We just can't wait.
I'm not editing this. Let's just go.
Awesome.
Oh,
now 2025 and 2030 seem to be big years, and surprisingly, they're making it into more mainstream as far as you look at the World Economic Forum and different occult groups. And I keep seeing either those 2 years or years that are in between them pop up. We know that Satan has a plan. He's planned things out, but that's all Satan can do. The only one who can make their plans like for sure happen is God. So kind of what I'm interested to see is if something actually happens or if God kind of frustrates Satan's plans, or if he lets him achieve and how far he's going to let Satan get, because we know that unless the days were cut short, no flesh would be saved. So what does that mean? Like, how far is he going to be allowed to take things before God just says, okay, enough, we're done? So
Right. Any final thoughts, Matthew, before I continue this next section, because this kind of flows right into it?
Well, I just want to say, if I've got a surprise party in store and I say, hey, you might not want to plan anything around late August, around this date. That's not me predicting the future. I don't have any real power there. I'm putting these things into motion. And yes, Eric is correct. At a certain point, God can, of course, throw that stumbling block in the path of the enemy, and suddenly the surprise party ain't happening on that date. It might get bumped back a little bit, but they have an agenda and they want to fulfill it. And Satan, so desperate to be like God, wants to be able to say something and have it stand the same way that God can say, this is how it's going to be. watch, it proves my divinity. Satan wants that too, so desperately. It's kind of pathetic, really, when you think about it. But that's what we're seeing here, I believe. These secret timelines that certain people have access to, that the public doesn't. That's all this is. So it's not divination. It's
Right.
just more secrecy.
And so and along those same lines, I have I want to give credit where credit's due. Sashi, I don't know if you want me to mention the last name or if it's not a real name, sent me some fascinating predictions from the occult. And some people are sensitive about this; they don't want to hear this. That's fine, but it's interesting that all this culminates around the time of the end of the 20s. The 2020s, and I think that's just an interesting thing for a number of reasons. There's actually some interesting stuff to talk about in this. So I thought we'd just look at it briefly and just kind of ponder it real quick. I'm going to read it. Let's see if I can. So Betty Hill claimed that the alien told her, this is an old story, Betty and Barney Hill, that the year 2025 would be a significant date. She said that the aliens would return to Earth in 2025 and that they would bring a message of peace and understanding. Hill claimed that in 2025 is based on her interpretation of the aliens' telepathic message. She said that the aliens told her that they were from the planet that was undergoing a period of great change. The aliens said that they were coming to Earth to help humanity through a simpler period of change. I'm reading on a tiny screen, so if I say anything wrong, correct me afterwards. Hill claimed that 2025 has been met with mixed reactions. Some people believe that she was a credible witness, and others claim that she worth considering. Others believe that her claim is simply a hoax. That's interesting. We're going to move on to the next one. This is Travis Walton. Travis Walton claimed that there was an abduction of aliens in 1975. He said that the aliens told him that they would be returning in 2025 and that they would bring a message of peace and understanding. Whitley Strieber, seems like I heard that name before, claimed that he was abducted by aliens on several occasions in the 1980s. He said that the aliens told him that they were returning in 2025 and that they would help humanity to achieve a higher level of consciousness. Bardo, also known as Tibetan Book of the Dead, the Tibetan Buddhist text that describes the experience of the soul after death. He says that in 2025, there will be a time of great change and transformation of humanity. All these people getting the same thing from the same demon, the same, what's going on here? Well, let's move on to a different date. No, actually, we'll continue in 2025. Again, this is not legitimate. You can't tell if this is actually going to happen because this is not biblical. But it's interesting. The Law of One. We've talked about the Law of One on this channel before. The Law of One is a spiritual philosophy that was created. I can't read that. There's something over it. By Carl in the 1970s. Carla. The philosophy teaches that Earth is about to enter a new age of enlightenment and that this age will begin in 2025. Imagine that. The philosophy also teaches that extraterrestrials will play a role in bringing about this new age. New World Order is a conspiracy theory that claims that the secret cabal of elites is planning to create a one world government. Some conspiracy theorists believe that the New World Order will be established in 2025. That just might be because, that's just what everyone else says. Who knows? But let's move on to 2027. This is interesting. Aleister Crowley, everyone knows who that is if they've watched this channel before. An English occultist and writer, wrote a book, The Equinox, that the year 2027 would be a time of great change and upheaval. He believed that the world would be reborn in that year and that the new era of peace and harmony would begin. And Blavatsky, we've heard about them, or this one before. the Russian occultist and founder of the Theosophical Society, also wrote about the year 2027. She believed that it would be a time of great spiritual awakening and that humanity would finally achieve enlightenment. JPF, I haven't heard of this one before, a French occultist, wrote in a letter to another occultist that the year 2027 would be a time of great events. He did not specify which of these events would be, but he believed that they would have a profound impact on the world. Okay, so we have notes. Help me with this one. Is this Nostradamus, like the Nostradamus? Did you see that up there? This is the first time I'm reading this. This is the first time I'm reading this.
That's him.
Okay.
That's the boy.
Okay, watch this. Nostradamus, also known as Nostradamus, was a French physician and astrologer who famously, I'm going to make this screen bigger so I can actually read this. There we go. He predicted that in the year 2027 would be a time of great conflict and upheaval, and he believed that there would be wars, famines, and natural disasters. Interesting. I think that's fascinating. Edgar, an American psychic and clairvoyant, predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great change and transformation. He believed that humanity would finally achieve a new level of consciousness and that the world would become a more powerful and harmonious place. Ramtha, a spiritual teacher who claimed to be 35,000-year-old, predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great awakening. He believed that humanity would finally realize its true potential and that a new era of peace and prosperity would begin. Again, I don't know if these guys are just reading the other guy's books, but it's fascinating. They're all coming up with the same numbers. Zachary Smith, the self-described prophet and seer, predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great change and upheaval. He also believed that there would be a global awakening this year and that humanity will finally realize its true potential. David Wilcock, a writer and researcher, predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great disclosure. He believed that the true, interesting word, disclosure, 2027, He believed that the truth about extraterrestrial life and other hidden knowledge, there you go, we just talked about that, will finally be revealed to the public in this year. Michael, a conspiracy theorist and author, predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great upheaval. He believes that there will be a global reset in this year and that the world will be plunged into chaos. Good grief. How many more of these are there? John Mitchell, an English writer, even though these were sent to me, this is the first time I'm reading this, predicted the year 2027 would be the time of great alignment of planets. He believed that this alignment would cause a spiritual awakening in humanity. Benjamin Cream, a Scottish, predicted that the year 2027 would be a year of the return of Christ. He believed that the spiritual master would return to earth in this year and usher in a new era. No one can predict the time of the return of Christ, but maybe this isn't Christ. Keep that in mind. James, an American medium, predicted the year 2027 would be a time of great healing and transformation. He believed that humanity would finally learn to live in harmony with each other and this planet. John Dee, an English mathematician, astronomer, and occultist, predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great enlightenment. He believed that humanity would finally achieve a new level of consciousness and that the world would become a more peaceful and harmonious place. Elsa Bailey, we already heard about her. Wait, did we? I think we did. And an Indian philosopher and yogi predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great spiritual awakening. He believed that humanity would finally achieve a higher state of consciousness and that this would lead to a new era of peace on Earth. This is the last one, I think. Max, a German-American esoterist, I don't even know how to say that word, predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great spiritual awakening. He believed that humanity would finally achieve a higher state of consciousness and this world would lead to a new era of peace and harmony. Another American medium predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great conflict. Another one, American author and mystic, predicted the year 2027 would be a time of great change and upheaval. He believed that humanity would finally be forced to confront its shadow side, and that this world would lead to a period of great transformation. Good grief, how many are there? Robert Wilson, an American author and occultist, predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great chaos and upheaval. He believed that the world would be plunged into a period of anarchy, and that this would lead to a new era of freedom and creativity. Terence, an American philosopher, predicted that the year 2027 would be a time of great change and transformation. He believed that humanity would finally achieve a higher state of consciousness and that this would lead to a new era of peace and harmony on Earth. And of course, David Icke. I've once heard of David Icke, a British conspiracy theorist, predicted 2027 would be a time of great disclosure. He believed that the truth about the Illuminati and other hidden powers would finally be revealed to the public this year. And before I go into that clip right there, wow. I want to thank Sashi for sending me that piece of fascinating information. But again, I want to also emphasize that this is all occultists. You don't know what they're thinking, if this is true at all. You definitely don't want to take their word that this is that their Christ is going to come in this year. But it is fascinating that they've set these two dates as particular. What are you guys' thoughts on this?
In addition to the years just coming up over and over and over, another similarity is that there's a time of great trouble, but then an era of peace and harmony follows. Every single one. It's like, yeah, we're going to have some issues, but peace and harmony, peace and harmony, peace and harmony. It's on its way. And even the one person saying that the return of Christ, Benjamin Cream, said that Jesus was returning and then that he would usher in an era of peace and harmony. Obviously not the Christ of the Bible, folks, because when the Christ of the Bible returns, the earth gets destroyed. Not very much peace or harmony to be found in his return.
Yeah. The birds eat the flesh of the dead, and the buildings. What does the Bible say? The buildings are broken down, the cities are broken down of earth, and so I mean and the sun goes dark. I mean, sun goes. We lose the sun, we're going to lose life on this planet as we know it. Any type of life, because that's how the precipitation, condensation, evaporation, all that stuff fuels life on Earth. It's not going to happen anymore, at least not to the extent it is right now. Very cold Earth. But what do you think, Eric?
Well, it's just one of Matthew's favorite scriptures, 2 Timothy 3:13. But evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. So there's two possibilities. Either things will happen on these dates, it's going to be a deception that happens, but it will happen on time, or these people who think that they're doing the deceiving are deceived themselves, and it's going to be delayed a little bit. But either way, anybody who's ridden a roller coaster, you go over that first hill. If you're in the back car and the front of the roller coaster has already gone over, like you're just waiting to go over you're going over the hill and you're accelerating toward it one way or the other. It's just a question of when, and that's where we are. I think so much toothpaste is out of the tube, as they say, at this point, where you have the economy, the wars, the famines, the tranny degeneracy. It's just, you can't undo that. People are waking up, so the only place they have to go is forward. So, and of course, from the biblical perspective, we know exactly where it's leading, like you've just mentioned, the return of Jesus Christ, destruction of this corrupt world. But I think that, continuing in 2 Timothy 3 at verse 14, but continue thou in the things which thou hast learned and hast been assured of, knowing of whom thou hast learned them, and that from a child thou hast known the holy scriptures, which are able to make thee wise unto salvation through faith, which is in Jesus Christ. And that says it all right there. I mean, you look at God's word, we know exactly where it comes from. And maybe you're watching this and you haven't, you're on the fence, or maybe you think it's just wrong. Look for yourself at some of these prophecies and see for yourself how it aligns with what's going on. Don't take our word for it. It's out there. God has made it available. There's plenty of resources. Strong's Concordance, basically a Bible and Strong's Concordance. Look at those and then look at what's going on in the world. Right. And I think you'll be convinced that something of biblical proportions, as they say, is happening.
Right, 100%, and going to happen soon. And I don't mean to say that it will happen in 2025, 2027, 2030, and all this stuff. I don't want to make predictions and say that it's going to happen on this date or this year even, because I might be wrong. I might be too far away. It might happen a lot sooner than that, or it might happen tomorrow for you. A lot people die every day, so everyone has to be ready. Everyone has to be prepared every day and have that relationship with God, because we don't know what our last time is. If you don't have anything to say, Matthew, I'm going to jump into this final clip.
Let's jump into it, Bradley.
We're jumping. Here we go. This is interesting.
Thank you. John, I want to ask you about something that's starting to gain steam here in Washington, which is UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena.
Yes,
there's
I know what
going
that
to be
is.
a House Oversight Committee hearing at the end of this month. Senator Schumer has put forth an amendment to the NDAA that is modeled after the JFK Assassination Records Collection Act. What level of transparency does the Biden administration believe that the American public deserves and should have as it relates to UAPs?
Well, without speaking to proposed legislation, I won't do that. As you know, the Pentagon has stood up an entire organization to help collate and coordinate the reporting and analysis of sightings of UAP across the military. Before that, there wasn't really a coordinated, integrated effort to do that. And of course, we will always want to be as transparent with members of Congress and with the American people as we can, considering national security concerns.
This used to get laughed at for quite some time, for years and
What
decades.
gets laughed at?
The idea of Congress taking this up. I mean, Gerald Ford talked about this as a congressman back in 1966, and here we are, what is that, 60 years later, give or take. Is this a legitimate issue? Does the administration believe that getting to the bottom of these sightings in the air, is it a real concern? Is it a real legitimate issue as you see it?
Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't have stood up an organization at the Pentagon to analyze and try to collect and coordinate the way these sightings are reported if we didn't take it seriously. Of course we do. I mean, some of these phenomena we know have already had an impact on our training ranges. For when pilots are out trying to do training in the air and they see these things, they're not sure what they are, and it can have an impact on their ability to perfect their skills. So it already had an impact here, and we just want to better understand it. Now, we're not saying what they are or what they're not. We're saying that there's something our pilots are seeing. We're saying it has had an effect on some of our training operations, and so we want to get to the bottom of it. We want to understand it better. So, yes.
Do you believe these whistleblowers that have come forward?
I'm not going to talk about individual whistleblowers.
Thank you so much, John. I have an Iran question and an Afghanistan question.
And that's it. That's it for that one. And before we get into any comments on that, I think it's fascinating to say this channel exists only because of you. So if you are interested in continuing this mission, at least for the few years that we're left on this earth, please consider joining our Patreon, patreon.com/strangenormal. Join us and partner with us and help us push this truth forward, because there's not a lot of people doing it. Even some churches don't even want this message to be taught. It's amazing. Any last thoughts on that? Matthew, go for it.
The dialogue is changing. You can tell. It was at a certain point, a lot of these UAPs, we have classified them. We have debunked it. It was just a little
weather balloon
anomaly on the scan. An anomaly. Anything other than what he's saying right now, which what he's saying right now is there are definitely things that have an impact on our military, at least as far he's saying the training now. Just wait until they start saying we've had military operations that have been foiled or have been messed with by these things. Not just training, but actual military operations that they were carrying out. Everything is changing so quickly. It's amazing to see it happen, actually. It's like they've totally flipped over a new leaf on their approach to this. even though they had made these task forces and they were trying to get data and that type of a thing, it was more of a, we're just doing it to just, kind of cover our bases, make sure, but we know there's nothing really there. All of a sudden, everybody is saying, there's something here. There's something seriously here, and we take it seriously, and this is not a joke. It's going to get more and more intense in the near future. So I just think the rapidness of the push for disclosure and even the way that people are talking about this, it's kind of mind-blowing, honestly. It's happening so quickly. Can't really even wrap your head fully around it.
Eric?
The thing that annoys me about it is the 1984-esque way that they act like they've always taken it seriously. Like, duh, of course we take it seriously. Like, I think it was a doublespeak or newspeak from the book where it's like they go back and change history, and it's like, no, you didn't. Yeah, I remember tabloids when I was a kid. That's what the tabloid section was all in. It was actually in the movie Men in Black. At the end of the movie, they have a bunch of tabloids. It's all aliens and UFOs. That's where it was relegated to, and that's everybody who believed in that or said anything. It was a tabloid crackpot. So, what's the change? Well, we know what's the change is that the Great Deception is moving forward, and we are now closer to the return of Jesus Christ. So, as Matt said, it's only going to increase from this point on.
Absolutely. Lots is happening right now. And I think that we need to stay in prayer, stay focused, and keep an eye on what's going on in the news. And you can do that by watching this channel. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and be notified when things are going on. Guys, let's end with prayer. I'll say it. Father God, thank you so much for giving us today that we can talk about this, that we can focus on you, and that we can think about all the stuff that's happening and that it's coming to fruition exactly how your word says. And we are thankful for being able to at least have this channel for a little while longer to push out this message, to tell God's people of the coming deceptions. Help us to get it out further. Help us to get this message out so that we can at least, if it's not us that does it, get it out to someone who can press it out to a bigger audience. We love you, God. We look forward to the day where we are close to you. Amen.
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 Keep that. That was.
We're just rolling with it. Thanks for watching this segment. Subscribe to our channel and join us every Thursday night for more daily strange topics and more. Find us on Discord by accessing patreon.com/strangenormal. See you there.